Welcome. Welcome to Wednesdays with William. Today we are going to be talking about managing your general ledger accounts in Sage 300. This is a topic that would appeal to all accountants who are going to be using your general ledger especially. Let me introduce myself. My name is William Winston to be exact. And today we are going to be looking at adding, modifying, deleting accounts. We're going to be looking at account information. We're going to use the drill downs. We are also going to be printing reports. We are going to be accessing um, through accounts the transactions. We are also going to be looking at how to do budgeting um, for the accounts. We are not actually going to be doing the budgeting, but we're going to look at how we can look at budget information. We're going to talk about GL security, how to create accounts automatically, and segments, and basically everything you wanted to know about GL accounts. So we can add accounts in different locations. There are three different locations. I will also talk about the details to control accounts, refer to multi-currency, when would you use, maintain quantities. I'll talk about roll-ups, how to use an account as a template to create another account, and talk about general ledger, how you can close off accounts to different segments. We can also talk about modifying accounts. How do you want to change your account number? We can do that using a special tool. We can also show you what things cannot be changed, which is important when you're setting up something. If it cannot be changed, then be cautious about it. And what conditions can you delete an account? So there's different conditions. We also show you about printing the general ledger chart of accounts reports, where they're located. We'll also look at viewing the GL account information. We will talk about drill downs. I will also talk about drill downs in the financial statement. And we'll look at exporting and importing account and discuss setting criteria when you are exporting or when you are importing. We'll talk about merging two accounts, showing you how you can change the account number so that you can organize your accounts better or fix them to suit your needs. We'll also talk about GL account security and when this can be used and how it can be used and the effects of it. We'll also show you how to create accounts in mass. It's not completely automatic. You still have to press the button, but how to create general ledger accounts as a group of them. So if you know me, I like to dive straight into the session. As you can see, we have lots to cover in this session. So let's get started. So what I want to do is to go to my Sage 300. I am going to be looking at the general ledger. So I'll focus on this part here. So first of all, I want to talk about is adding an account. So we can add an account in three different locations. Number one, we can use the chart of accounts icon. We can click on this icon, and we can also click on the create accounts icon. Now, for most of you, if you look at the screen for the first time and you ask to create an account, your eyes will obviously be drawn to create accounts. But this is the last option that you actually need, where you need to go into create an account, because you will create lots of accounts and sometimes you have to be sure of what you want. So first of all, let me talk about a typical way, and that is you go into this icon here. When it's opened, it will open to a blank screen where you can add information, add all the information. So I myself normally do not, if I'm in this area, I normally use my chart of accounts window, even if I had to add an account. The reason is I can see where my accounts are located. I can get an idea of what the numbering is, etc. So let's say I wanted to create an account. There is no obvious button here for creating a new account. Well, what you can do is open a particular account. For example, this one. You can either double click or click on the open button at the bottom, highlight an account and do that. Then when you reach in this screen here, if you wanted to create something from scratch, then you just click on the new button out here on your right hand side, and then you go in and you proceed to add all your accounts. If you are adding an account that involves a segment other than an account segment, then what you would notice is that if you were to add, let's say 600, which I know does not exist, and let's say I selected the corresponding structure, the account structure, which I know to be correct, which will be the second one here. So I can double click on it. Right. I know this structure is correct. However, I have not created a segment 600. So if you have not created a segment 600, you will not be able to add this account. So the system is trying to enforce not only the structure, but also trying to limit what you can add, because once you add an account and start posting transaction, it is not as easy to fix it. So you can see here, I will get an error message when I add it. It will say segment 600 is not created. However, I know I have segment 200. If I do this and I click on add, then I say no to this, then it has added this account immediately. Okay, so this account is now added. So to prove that, I can just close out of this. Do you want to add account? Oh, let's say yes. And you would see the account is added. I just have to refresh the screen and there it is. So of course, before you do that basic thing, you have to do a little bit, or you should do a little bit more. You should put in a description, of course, of your account. Let's see. Just add a description that is meaningful. And now you have to determine whether this is going to be a debit or credit, the normal balance. Right, I determined it's a credit. A debit, because it's an asset account, whether it's a balance sheet or income statement or a retained earnings account. You will discover that when you set these up, if you have posted things to the previous year, changing it might become a bit tricky. So please try and take your time, set up these accounts properly. Then you can add your account groups. By default, if you don't add an account group, it'll automatically go to unclassified. But what you want to do is you want to take some time and create your account groups so that when you go to create financial statements later, it will become a lot easier. Whether it's active or inactive, people normally, when they create an account, put it as active. You could create accounts in advance and then make them inactive and turn them on when you wish. This is one area where people sometimes they post two accounts. So obviously you can do by detail, consolidated, which most people are familiar with, but they might be asking themselves, well, why is there prohibited? Under what condition I might set up an account where I'm prohibited from posting to it? Well, under one condition might be if you are setting up a roll-up account. So let's say you have a number of accounts rolling up into this account, and you don't want to post to this account directly, then you can set it as posting to account prohibited. And also, if you have some accounts you don't want people doing posting to it, then you might want to consider setting it up as prohibit posting. Next, you have a number of tabs, a number of options right here that every time you select an option, you would notice that a different tab is created. So one of the things is a control account. If this was in a control account, then what you would do is you would come inside here and you would add for what subledger is it a control account for. So for example, if it's going to be AP, let's say it was accounts payable, right? Then you would come inside here and select accounts payable. Now, if you hit the finder, sometimes people ask, well, which one should I use? Should I use AP, this one, or should I use the credit? It really doesn't matter. In fact, all you have to do, if you select one of those, it will just put in AP. So you could have just typed in the word AP, and that would suffice. Okay, so if I enter, right. So for this particular account, if this is a subledger account and I save this, one of the features, it prevents you from posting in the general ledger to this account directly. So again, this would be useful. For example, if you have a bank account and we want all the bank information to be processed through the bank icon, which it should be, right? Because in Sage 300, if you do something in the general ledger for a bank account, it doesn't show up when you go to do the reconciliation. So you might want to prevent someone from entering transaction to in the general ledger for that particular account. So I'll quickly demonstrate what will happen if that is the case. So let's say we go to my general ledger, I go to the transaction, the batch list. I would quickly, is this open? Nope. So I just create a new one quickly. And in this case, I want to select that account. And you will see as soon as I select it and then tab out of that screen, I will get a message saying, oops, sorry, this account is a control account and it does not support this. It is a control account and does not support subledger GL. So at this point, you might be totally confused and say, what are you talking about? What is a subledger GL? Well, all it means is that you cannot enter an entry directly into the general ledger for this account, right? So again, I explained before the uses of that. Now, obviously, accountants love to have control. So it might be that under some circumstances, maybe if you're creating opening balances or what, you might want to allow for an entry in the general ledger. So if you wanted to do that, what you can do is you can come inside here and add the general ledger, this is GL. So in its, as it were, you're creating the GL is a subledger of itself. So I know the terminology is a little bit strange, but if I were to save this now, and if I were to go back and enter that account, I will not get that message again. It will allow me, when I hit tab, it will allow me to enter journal entry for this particular account. So again, this is very useful in controlling or managing your account. What accounts do you want people to be able to create journal entries for? And what accounts do you want it must come through a subledger so that reconciliation between the subledger and the general ledger accounts would be a lot easier. Okay, so I won't bother to add this at this point. So again, that we are just talking about the one tab here, this control account, auto allocation. If you are setting up auto allocation, then what you would do is general ledger, let's say journal entry. Okay, so you will notice here that you can add any account. It really doesn't matter. You can pick from anything. So again, you have to be careful. You have to know a little bit about your accounting, which accounts you want to have these accounts allocated to. When would you use this? So you might get a cleaning bill, for example. And then at the end of the year, that was entered as an amount of a particular account, but now you want to allocate it to different departments. So you can set this up so it will be done on a regular basis. Now, there is one little trick here is right now you see there's only account balances. So you can only distribute by account balances. If you were to set up the accounts with maintain quantities, then you would notice here that you have another option now where you can distribute it by quantities. So how would this be used? Again, if I use the example I used before with regard to a cleaning bill, so the cleaners come in, they clean the whole company, and you get a bill at the end. So you might want to allocate that bill based on, let's say, floor space. So you might want to say, well, the floor space for this department, for the accounting department is, let's say, 5%. The floor space for the sales department is 25%. Manufacturing is 50%. And the rest is, let's say, administration. So you can take your cleaning bill and based on these amounts, once it's entered into the relevant accounts, then you can say, wait a minute, all I want to do is allocate this cost based on the quantity on the floor space. So you'll take the amount and divide it up based on the corresponding floor space. Okay, so that is an additional feature that could be used when you are doing your allocation. Multi-currency, of course, you will see a tab inside here. If you allow for all currencies, then you don't need to go and fill out this area here. Any currency that you have, it will allow for putting in source amount based on that currency. However, you can also specify particular currency. So in this particular case, I might only be dealing with US currency, so I would set up US dollars. And the next one here is, again, maintain quantities. Maintain quantities, this is one that when you turn it on and you save it, you will not be able to modify this, this field. And the same thing for multi-currency. So what is using maintain quantities? Well, it associates a quantity with an account. So in one particular case, one of the clients wanted to track the number of hours for vacation payables. So we had vacation payables with a certain amount that was coming through from payroll, but they also want to track the number of hours. So what you can do is you can set up the units as the hours. When you do the transaction, you can add the amount of hours, and then you can print your trial balance or reports that includes the quantities. Okay, so I will demonstrate that after a short time. So what you can do is you can use this to associate something with an account number, besides the amount of money in that account. So for example, the number of hours, etc. Okay, the roll-ups. The roll-up, when you click on the roll-up, if you want to use roll-up accounts, you can have an account or different accounts rolling up into this account. Okay, so it can be like a summary. And you could have a roll-up account rolling up into another account. So the rules for roll-up is really and truly, it doesn't obey any accounting rules. So if you wish, you can have an income statement account rolling up into a balance sheet account. So you have to be careful in order to determine what you want to roll up. It should make sense to you. The system leaves it up to the user to provide it. So the user provide the logic of how this is going to work. And then you can print reports based on roll-up amounts, etc. Okay, so again, there's various things you can use to hide a tree, right? So I am not going to do this. So I'm going to go back and basically, I'm trying to roll it up to itself, which actually doesn't make sense. So if I were to do this one here, it should, okay. So again, yeah, okay, so I can go back and turn these off. Okay, so this is one area again where you could add an account. So I started off by saying you can add account from 3 different locations. I mentioned the chart of accounts. So let's go back into that area. The chart of accounts. You can always click on this and you would end up with a blank screen, which you do all the entries. And you can also do create accounts from this icon also. So right now I will do create accounts. Some people say automatically, but I'm going to show you in mass how you create an account. So first of all, let me clear it up because I did run it before. So I'm just clearing it out. So if I created a new division, let's say 500 or 600, then what I can do is right now, if I look at my chart of accounts, there is on the balance sheet, I do not have any segments except for this one, right? So what I can do is I can quickly, if I created that, and if I wanted to, I could go inside here and say, look, for all the accounts with this type of structure, just meaning the account part, I would like to create a structure with the account and the division. And I could limit it to a particular division. Let's say division 500. So now I can determine again which accounts, which range. So I can pick a range. If I don't want to do all of that, I can do, let's say, this up to this range here, right? And now I can click preview. So it will generate not, it doesn't go to the chart of accounts yet. It's not, it's just creating a report for me. So I'm going to close out to that, and the report is going to come up. More than a report, it's going to, you are allowed to preview which accounts are going to be created. So it's going to create 1000-500, 107-500, etc. 181 accounts. Now you can cherry pick. You can say, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So you can do that, of course, right? But so you need to go and check, make sure, print it out, make sure that this is what you want to do. Because once you close out of this and you click on process, it will add those accounts to your chart of accounts. At that point, the only way of undoing it is either you restore from a backup or you go and manually delete the accounts one by one. There is no mass undo. So that is why I caution people when they're using this to make sure that they review the accounts, make sure they want to create those accounts, right? And then click on the process button. Okay. So there is some caution in using this simply because if you, it's not a major deal. You could always go and delete the accounts one by one, but that would be time consuming. Okay. So the three areas just to go over again, you can go to the chart of accounts, you can click on this icon, or you can go here to create accounts. Okay. One thing that you can use from the chart of accounts is you can use an existing account like a template. So for example, if I wanted to create another account here, right, I could click on open. So now that account shows up. And the account that I want to create is very similar to this account. So let's say I am going to call it 1005, and I'm going to call it Williams or Petty Cash William, right? And if I want, I can make lots of changes. But what I want to do is just show you the how you add an account quickly based on this. So if it's very similar to this, then you might not want to make a lot of changes, but you have the power to make changes. So what I'm going to do is all I did was change this, and then I click on add. So now, oh, it's telling me that I have some, I was going to turn that off, click add, and it added this account 1005. So if I close down the screen now and go to my chart of accounts, I know you say, oh, but William, it didn't work. Oh, it did. All I have to do is refresh it. Oh, did I add it? Yep, there it is, 105. It's right here. Okay, so that's how easy it is to create an account using a previous account as a template. Okay, so that is useful if you want to create accounts quickly, etc. Okay, I recommend you don't create accounts quickly. It's something that should be planned, because if you want to merge accounts, which you can, it's just another time-consuming activity. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is sometimes in Sage 300, one of the features is that you can close off by segments. Okay, so if you look here, if you wanted to close off by a particular segment, there's something that you would have to do, and that is, first of all, you would have to go into your setup, you would have to go to your options, and under the segment tab, there's something here called using closing. Now, I have only turned it on for the division level. I said yes. So when I go to create different segment codes, it gives me the option of adding a closing account, right? Now, what if I leave it blank? What if I don't put a closing account here? Well, it still would close, obviously, but it would close to the default closing account. So if you put, even if you turn it on and you don't use it, then it will automatically close off to the default closing account here. Okay, so sometimes people turn it on by accident and they're not sure what to do. Don't worry about it. It will automatically close off the default closing account. Okay, so we have talked about setting up accounts. What if you wanted to modify accounts? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Again, I like to operate from the chart of accounts. I can go inside here. From this screen, you cannot modify the this here. If I change it, it will create a new account. So sometimes people think, oh, I'm just going to change the account number. They change it and seem to add it. And then, oh my goodness, I added another account, and they keep doing it. So you cannot change the account number. You could always change the account description. Or shall I say, from this screen, you can't change the account number. Okay? Now, there's certain things that the structure code, for example, you can't change. You can change this. You can change this, but again, you have to be careful about changing it based on the fact that if you had something posted to this account, especially in a previous year, right? Now, and then you can make various changes. The maintain quantities you cannot change, and the multi-currency, if this was turned on, and save, you will not be able to modify it. Okay, so you cannot turn off multi-currency options or maintain quantities for accounts after you have turned them on. So just keep that in mind. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is deleting an account. So if there's certain conditions under which you can delete an account. So of course, if you post, the conditions are the account must be inactive. So for example, if I go inside here and I wanted to delete this account, I open it up. There's a delete button right at the bottom here. So if I click on this, it would tell me, first of all, it's not set to inactive. So that's just one thing here. Do you want to delete the account? Yes. And it says, sorry, it can't be deleted because it's not set to inactive. So if I make it inactive, then I can delete the account, right? Now, other conditions have to be met, of course. The account cannot be used as a retained earnings account, right? If it's set up as a retained earnings account, even if it's inactive, you wouldn't not allow be able to delete it. If the account has some sort of opening balances, right, for this year, then you will not be able to delete it. If there is current transaction in the current year, right? If there is, if the account does not receive amounts automatically from allocation, then you have to undo the allocation, assign it to something else, and then you will be able to delete it. So there are some conditions that must be met in order to delete accounts. Again, why are there all these rules? The rules are there to protect your data. Okay. There is another accounting system when you can do things, and then after you go to print the report, you realize, wait a minute, the system should not allow you to do that. So there's some checks built into the system that would help you prevent you from damaging your data or producing results that you don't want. So that's why the rules are there. Okay. So we can now, so if I wanted to get rid of this, cancel, I'm just going to click on the delete button. It's inactive. I just created, so I know there's no opening balances. I'm going to say yes, and it's deleted. I know it looks like it's just because the screen is not refreshed. Again, you see it here, but if I click on this, the go button here, then you would see it has disappeared. So what we have done so far is we have shown you how to add accounts from 3 different locations. We have shown you how to modify accounts, tell you what you can use to modify it, what you cannot modify, and then we just showed you how to delete some accounts and the conditions under which those accounts are to be deleted. Of course, if you need further information, don't hesitate to contact me. I know sometimes in these webinars, we go through things rather quickly because we want to cover some things. Otherwise, if I just do one particular topic, people will say, oh, it's so boring. We only did one thing. So I try to cover enough so that you get interested in doing it. But if you want details, by all means, contact me. Now let's continue with printing the chart of information from the chart of accounts. A useful thing inside here, of course, is while I'm in this screen, I can click on File Print, and that will bring up the chart of accounts. I don't have to go to another screen. So there are different types of reports that we can print. So if I wanted to see if, let's say, I did some allocations, but I didn't remember which account was allocated to which ones, then I might want to select this and click on the print button. And what that will do is now it will show me accounts that have been set up with auto allocations, right? So I can see I only have one here. I set this one up recently. Okay. So again, you could look at this and get information on what you have set up. Of course, most people would do the standard form, right? Again, these are reports, so there's no reason to fear printing reports and seeing what they generate. So notice in this particular one, I have I show in here that I've set up this where I can store units of units. Okay, quantities, right? So of course, if I wanted to do that, I could also print a trial balance. So now let me go into the other area here. Now all the reports in the general ledger are just put in the folder called GL reports. In some of the other modules, it's segmented in setup reports, etc. But in this case, you just put everything because there's not a lot of reports. Right? So if I go here to print the trial balance, I have different types of trial balances. Again, if I wanted to see the quantity report that involves quantities which I've created, now I might want to print that. Okay, so let me scroll down. If I can see this, oops, it's just been hidden above that. So I can do all P work. It's printing. And as you can see here, it would print, if you had quantities for that particular account, it would show up here in the trial balance. So again, let me make this here. Okay, and then add these afterwards. So here we can see, so that's printing the trial balance. A lot of people sometimes like the worksheet. So what they would do is print the worksheet. So again, I'm just going to hit all P, and it's going to generate the worksheet, which is a crystal report. So for the crystal report here, they might not want the worksheet in this format. They might want it in an Excel format. So you could always go and export it to Excel, right? So, and then they can use that. But if you are putting formulas in there, etc., then what you might want to do is you might want to generate using the intelligence report so that when you would have your formulas already built in, rather than every single time having to redo them. Okay, so that's one thing that would be useful if you're doing these worksheets on a regular basis. Maybe you might want to consider using intelligence reporting. And of course, we have the transaction listing, GL transaction listing. So yes, so I just have to change my resolution a bit. It's a bit high, so I'm just going to go back inside here. So sometimes you get that message. It's just a question of the resolution. So I'm going to change that here, and that would solve that problem. So now if I keep changes, so now if I go back to my to transaction listing, I go back inside, I go back to my reports, go back to GL transactions, and I can select a particular account. I'm just going to pick a few more accounts just so that I can get some more information. And then I click on print, and now it would generate the GL transaction listing. I can see all the transactions that went into this account. So I see things I have here from the different sources: AR payment, general ledger journal entries, AP, etc. Okay. So those are information that sometimes you use to help manage your accounts. The other thing is you can, of course, view information. Instead of printing, you can view it on the screen. So one area I like to work from, as I mentioned before, you might have noticed I've said this a few times, the chart of accounts, it's really my favorite. And so, for example, if I were to look at this, right, and I say, okay, let me see all the transactions, I click on this, I will see all the transactions that make up that number in that particular account. Now, there is nothing here that tells you, but you can drill down. So if I wanted to look at the journal entries, if I double click on this, then I would open up the general ledger journal entry screen. And if I want to drill back directly to the entry, this came from AR payment, then I can click on this icon here, the drill down icon. And what would open up is the AR receipt entry screen. So I can see the actual receipt entry. So this is very useful when you're looking at the numbers maybe in a chart of accounts to sort of say, well, where is this coming from? What is the details of this? There are other things you can use, like for example, you can do a comparison. You can do a comparison between actual and budgets if you have budget set up, right? You can do an actual for a previous year. So you can look at this account for, let's say, 2019. So you can look at a previous year, what was in that account. So you can quickly get information at your fingertips. Instead of doing net changes, you might want to look at balances, etc. You can look at source currencies. You have options at your fingertips for quickly getting information that will help you manage your accounts. Okay, budgeting information. If budgeting information was set up, then you highlight the account, you click on budget, and then if there was, well, in this case, there's no budget information set up, but you can, from this screen, quickly set up budget information. I will talk about budgeting in another session. Okay, but history. If I wanted to look at the history of this account, I can see for different periods here. I can change the year if I wanted to look at 2019. So you can see, you can get more information about the amounts in that account. And of course, you can look at if there was currencies involved, you can look at the different currencies in that account. Okay, now, all of these buttons here, of course, are available here. You can do accounts history, you can do budget maintenance. But if you were to use this, then you would have to go inside here, you would have to select your account, you'd have to hit the go button, etc. As you can see, if I'm doing it from the chart of accounts, it's just a time saver, right? So I particularly just like to highlight the account, click on the budget, for example, automatically it knows what account it is and it puts in the information. So it's just less clicking, just making it a little more efficient. Okay, so there are all these little things that are available to you to help you manage your accounts. So I talked about printing accounts, I talked about viewing it, I showed you how to do the drill downs, and there is one thing that I wanted to show you, another drill down, but this time it's from within the financial reporter, and I'm going to open up the statement designer, which basically opens up an Excel file, and I'm going to look at a particular income statement. And the reason I said a particular income statement is because this income statement is using a particular formula that would allow for drill downs. So not all income statement, financial statements would have this. You would have to use the corresponding formula. Now, how do I know that this file was open from, or this Excel was open from within the financial reporter? Because if I go to the add-ins here, I would see FR. So it adds a bunch of tools, macros that you can then use to create financial statements. So I'm going to open up one in particular, Quicking 4. The reason I'm using this particular one is because when I run it, so I go to my add-ins, I go to FR, do FR view, and sure I can accept all of that. And I'm just going to hit OK. So it's going to run, and you will see in the print area, when it's generated, you'll see like a comment explaining how you can do the drill downs. So if you look at it here, for example, this particular field, you see it's giving you instructions. If you right click and click on drill downs, then what you would get is all of the information inside here that relates to this particular account. I'm going to look at an adjustment. Somebody did an adjustment. I'm curious. Why did they do the adjustment? Who did the adjustment? So what I can do, I know it doesn't tell you on the screen anywhere, but if you double click on this area here, it will open up the GL, the journal entry. So you can see the journal entry, but I might want to find out, well, hey, who did that journal entry? So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to see, oh, this was done by this particular person. This is an adjustment. And then if there's not enough information here, I can call up that person and say, hey, do you remember doing this? And why did you do this adjustment? So again, that's drill down when you're doing the financial statement. So it's available inside here. Now, it's not available if you're using the other icon. Okay, so this is only when you're doing let me just close this down. This is available when you're using the statement designer. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly clean up here a little bit, close that Excel file down, and I think that should be okay. See what else, I have something else open here. I can close that. So I have talked about adding accounts, 3 different ways, modifying accounts, deleting general ledger accounts under what condition. I've printed up 3 reports, the chart of accounts, the trial balance report. I've shown you in the trial balance a number of different types of reports, and also shown you how to view information in the chart of accounts, namely drill downs. I've also shown you the transactions, how to use a comparison to compare between, let's say, different periods, different years, and also actual versus budget, which is also often very useful. So now I want to come to the stage where I'm going to show you how to merge 2 accounts or change the account number. In order to do that, what you would have to have is you would have to have the account code change. The account code change is just not an additional cost. Sometimes it's not installed because, or sometimes it's limited by the rights, who have rights to this, because you don't want everybody going in every Monday morning and deciding to change the account number and things like that. It would get rather confusing. So it's limited, or people usually limited to what you can do. So if I look at my chart of accounts right now, I'm just going to quickly change the account number. So if, for example, in this one here, I wanted to change the account number, right? So let's say from 1,000 to 1,002. Notice the amount inside here is 10,300. I just want to change the account number. So I can go inside. So let me just close out of this because I have to close out of it first. I go into my account code change. It's a little program. Once that program is open, right, I can click on new. What do I want to do? Well, I want to do a change. So I would select, what do you want to change? I want to change this account here. I want to renumber it. So here I can do various things. If I wanted to change the structure, I could. I want to keep it simple right now. I'm just going to change it to 1002, for example. I can change the name to show you that I am changing it. So I'm just going to type XXX, and then I'm going to click OK. Right. So now it's going to ask me if I want to post it. I'm going to say yes. And now it's going through the process. It's going through all the fields where it has that account in it. And it's going to change the account number to now to 1002. So it's very easy. It's done. So if I go back now to my chart of accounts, I will see here that 1,000 doesn't exist, but this account exists. Okay, so you can reorganize your accounts using this. Let's say you had 2 accounts that you don't want to have two accounts. So let's say I had Petty Cash William. Right now there's zero in it. So what I want to do is I quickly want to do a journal entry to put some amount inside here. This is when it's open. So I'm going to do it very quickly. I know you have to put a description and all of that, but I want to just work quickly. So 1,000 and I think it was, can't remember. I think it was 5, right? I'm quickly going to put the amount inside here. So let's do a debit of, let's say 500. And I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it quickly. I'm going to take it from some bank account. And I am going to balance it. So 500 here, tab, and I'm going to add. I'm going to go back so I can post it. So I'm going to post. Yes, done. So now when I go back to my chart of accounts, I'm going to see that there is an amount inside here. I just have to refresh it, of course. So now there's an account of 500 here. So if I go to combine this account inside this account here, right? Because I want to clean up my accounts. I don't need two accounts, right? I want to combine it. What I can do is I have to close out of the screen. Notice 10,300, 5,000. So the history goes with the account when I combine it. So otherwise, it will be, your accounting will be off. So I'm just going to go into my account code change. I'm going to open up that account. I'm going to click on new. I'm going to say combine. This is where you have to be careful. This account is going into this account. So what I want is my Petty Cash William, and I want that to go into account. Let's say this one here. So this account will disappear. This account will be the only account left standing, and the amounts will change. So let's say okay to that, and then I post. Yes, of course, yes. Posting is going to go through. And now I'm going to close this off, go back to my, yes, okay. I'm going to go back to my chart of accounts. Look at here, I have the 1005 is gone. The 1002 is here, and notice the amount here. It is 1080, so $10,800. So it has just combined, and the history goes with that account. So if you want to, you can put the transaction journal, then for the both accounts, then do the combination, okay, to combine them, and then do the journal entries again, or the transaction listing for that account, and you can see that it was combined. So again, another tool to help you manage your account. The last thing I want to talk about is GL security. So GL security, again, it's one of those things that that is available to you. So if you're going to set up, the first thing is you have to turn it on. Okay, and I notice a lot of people don't use it until they have some pressing problem and somebody suggests it to them. So in the GL security here, usually I say turn it on, and then the default access should be for all accounts. So if you did this and you don't use it, then nothing really happens. Okay, so if you do this and you save it, if you do this for the first time, then you would have to close down your program and restart it. And when you do that, then you will see under the GL accounts here, you would see something called account permission. Now, I have had people, after teaching a session and saying this, they will then call me up and say, William, I turned it on and I don't see anything, right? I have to tell them, recall what I said about you have to close down just the company and reopen it, or simply restart the company, and then you would see the icon. Okay, so believe me, it will work. So if you go into account permission here, you can see by users, you can set it up so that the user, a certain account is hidden. For example, this account here, right? If I do test for this person, they will not see that account. See, that's the first account they will see. So I can hide accounts from people. Okay. You might be asking, well, why would I want to do something like that? Well, it depends. Maybe the payroll accounts, certain payroll accounts for the managers you don't want people seeing, or if it's publicly traded companies, the stock number. If you have stocks account, you might not want people to see those accounts. So you can hide those accounts. Or you might just want to prevent people from coding to the wrong account. For example, if I have a segment and certain salespeople only work in commercial, some might work in retail. For that department or that segment, I would say only look at those. And therefore, they will not have that ability to look at, let's say, the 200 segment, for example. Okay. Now, this is more than just how people say, well, what is the effect of this, right? When you create these accounts, can I override? For example, I can't see the value, but maybe if I export it, then I can see what is in that particular account. Well, the restriction actually takes that all of that into consideration. So when you restrict the accounts, you cannot do a lookup or inquiry on the account. Of course, you cannot add that account in. You are preventing from posting or seeing batches that involve that account, right? And you can't export those restricted accounts. So it's pretty comprehensive. If you decide to use the GL security, it's not, people can bypass the measure through printing a report or exporting. So just keep that in mind when you're setting up the accounts. The last thing did I say the last thing before? I wanted to show you exporting, importing, and exporting. Now, exporting is not very difficult. Or should I say it's like a report. It's not going to damage your data. So let's say I wanted to, so let's say I had an account like this, and I wanted to do some exporting. What some people think is that it will export this information only. When you hit the file export, right? And now there are different things you can export, of course, so you can explore. You don't have to be afraid. You're not going to damage any data by doing this. So I'm going to select basic accounting for now. And I'm going to change this number here to 6. Of course, you see I've been doing this before tab. And now what you see here is what you can export. So you might want to export all of this, or you might not want to export all this information, right? So what you can do is you can pick and choose what you want to export, what fields, right? Now, you can also set a criteria. So you can go inside here and say, well, I only want to export accounts that are, let's say, less than 3,000. Oops, I did more than 3,000. Let's say 3,200. Hit OK, right? And I'm going to hit it. Now, if you do this on a regular basis, what you can do is save the script. When you reload it, you will get all your conditions will already be set up, including your criteria that you have set up. Now, with the criteria, if you're familiar with this screen from your finders, you can do, more than just, you can do and or. You can do, like if you put it on another line here, it would be an or statement. If you do, like, I want all the accounts less than that or greater than, so I can also do greater than, let's say 6,000, something like that. So that's an or. Or you can do and by putting something else inside here on this side here. So it is, I think, rather sophisticated, good enough to narrow down to meet your needs. Okay, so now if I click on OK, it will throw that file onto my desktop and I will see those things exported. So it will also give you the template. So if I were to minimize the screen quickly, let's go up here, minimize, let's scroll to the edge here, minimize this. And then let's say I look for that file, which is down here. I know I have lots of things on the screen, don't I? So here, when I open up that file, you will see, let me just go to the edge here. So I think I wanted all the accounts, let's drag this across like this, all the accounts less than 3,000, 3,200 to be exact. So, and then I wanted everything greater than, I think it was 6,000. So you can see here how I set that condition. Okay. If I wanted to add something quickly, so I'm just going to highlight this. Insert. Oh, so I should copy and then insert here. Insert. Okay. And let's say we'll change this to, let's say 5. No, do I have a 5? No. So I can change this to 5. And then I could, let me change this also. 5. Tab. So I can make some changes, or I don't have to, unfortunately, I copied quite a bit. So I'm just going to do this. I think that should be last one. 5. Tab. So I'm just going to close out of that, and I'm going to save it, close out, and save. It's done. So now when I go to import now, so if I go back to my accounts screen here, I can do this. I go file. So this is importing now. So I made a small change. I go to file, import, right? Basic profile. And I copy the file so I know it's in proper order. I can load a script if I wanted to, but I just want to do this quickly. So now I hit OK. And now it's going to go through. And what I should get, it should insert 1. So I see 1 inserted. I close out of that. If I go to my chart of accounts, which is, you think I would know exactly where that is after I've said it so many times. Let's see, let me make this full screen and go to my accounts, chart of accounts, here it is. And now I should see that account, this account here. I didn't type in a description, but so you can import this account. So if I find this very useful, for example, people would often not pay attention when initially setting up their grouping, and then they want to change their grouping after. So instead of going through each account screen by screen and changing it, you might want to consider exporting, changing the account group in the Excel file, and then importing it back in. So I've given you quite a few tools, suggestions to manage your GL accounts. So I hope that has been helpful. I will now take some questions. So I see some people send some questions. Number 1, this was just a note. Thank you for creating all the accounts by my division, William. Okay, so yes, so you see it can be easily done. I see here, after combining the account code, will the history of the original accounts be combined into the new account? Yes, it will. I mentioned that before. All you have to do is print the transactions for both accounts before, merge them, and you will see that it will be incorporated into the new account or the single account. Then I have a question. Does the import-export feature preserve the history as well? No, it doesn't. Like I just exported accounts, so it really doesn't export the history with the account. So these are the flat files. Like you can import vendors, you can import customers, you can import even journal entries and stuff like that. It will not override the logic, so you can't import the history per se, except like you import in like a batch and then you post it, and then that will be included in the history. So the answer for that is, does it preserve the history as well? When you import an account, it doesn't. If you change the account number using the account code change, it will. So if I had account 1000, change it to 105, then yes, the history is preserved. Okay. Any other questions? Somebody's asking about, let's see, what is it? I've added my chart of accounts and added open balance, how I cannot print my financial statements. So if you added an account and you can't print a standard financial statement, it's probably because you're either using a different grouping, you have added your own unique grouping, account groups, or you haven't added account groups. So that's one of the areas I want to look at if you create an account and then you can't use the standard financial statement. Okay, so that seems to be all the questions for now. What I would like to do is just let me go back to my, let me minimize this for a second, go back to my PowerPoint to round off the session, do a full view so you can see it. So we did the demo. I did the questions and answers. This will be posted on our YouTube channel. My name is William Wingson. You have my email. Please don't hesitate to contact me. Anything you want to learn in Sage 300, I am more than willing to share my information with you. So I am a learning tool, so you can use me whenever you want. So don't hesitate to contact me. So I would like to say goodbye for now and see you on the next Wednesdays with William. Thank you and have a good day.